Hello everyone, welcome back to Tuition Masters. And today we are here with our next chapter for Great and CBSE from the book First Flight. And today we are going to discuss the next chapter, that is Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. So this chapter is entirely, roaming around a very famous person who was Nelson Mandela, isn't it? You all might have studied about him, right? So today we are going to learn about his story, isn't it? We are going to do a quick NCRT explanation and many more things, right? So let's see what are we going to cover. So in the today's session, we are going to do the summary of the whole chapter, right? Then we're going to do some extract based MCQs, then some important questions and a mind map at the end, isn't it? So these topics we are going to cover today. Make sure to like the video, share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel if you didn't do it till now. So let's start with a summary of this chapter. So as I said, Nelson Mandela, he was a person who fought for the he did for the racism which was in place, right, for black and whites, isn't it? And he was the one who started the apartheid movements and suffragette movements, isn't it? So in this story, it revolves all around him. What did he do? How did he do? What challenges did he face? And all such things, right? So let's start with a quick summary. Apartheid in brief. So let's understand what is the meaning of apartheid. Now, apartheid, when we say it's the basic meaning is discrimination. Discrimination, as in, treating them differently, right? Discrimination between people on the basis of their race as in, are they white, are they black? That is the basic thing meaning of race, right? So there was discrimination, blacks and whites. Blacks were considered more inferior when compared to the whites. So that was the meaning of apartheid here, right? It was a part of one of the most brutal societies where dark skinned people were deprived from their basic rights. Now, as you guys know, in India, what happened? We know that the people who were like from the lower caste, right? They were known as untouchables. They could not drink water from, like they cannot touch any. They cannot go to temples, right? Similarly, in the Africa, New Zealand, and such places also, people were divided based on dark and white skin. So the dark skinned people, they were also deprived, means they were say it was said that they were denied. Okay, a deprived means they were denied from the basic rights. Okay, what basic rights are for voting and for owning some property or anything, they were denied. No, you cannot get because you're dark skin. So this chapter, it gives an overview that how a very famous person, Nelson Mandela, along with other supporters, they carved their way to a society which would be free of discrimination on basis of color, caste, race, age, or gender. So basically, Nelson Mandela, he did not wanted such kind of, because he was also dark skinned. So he believed that what others would feel, it was very inappropriate to treat someone based on the skin color. So that is why he said that no, this is absolutely wrong, and he fought for it. He fought that white color or dark color doesn't matter, they should both be on a same plane, right? So what happened? The inauguration day. Now, on 10th May, it was the day when Nelson Mandela had sworn in as the first black head of state of South Africa. Now, in South Africa, what happened was he was the person who was the first black, as in dark skinned person. He became the head of state. Okay, in South Africa, he became the head of state. He was the first person, because no black could ever become, because the whites wouldn't allow them. So Nelson Mandela was the first one on 10th May. Now, after many years of struggle, that is anti-racist party came into power. Anti-racist means they do not support racism. Racism as in discrimination based on the color, isn't it? So until then, the seat had always been occupied by the white presidents. Until Nelson Mandela and his followers did not fight for it, who used to always do it? Only the white presidents, right? The people who are white, they only used to run the governments, right? Now, this is why the author referred to the day as bright and clear. So, in the story, the author mentions that this day was bright and clear because everyone was treating equally, and it was a morning full of hope. There was hope that okay, there is someone who is taking initiative for the blacks also. There is someone who is standing as a representative for the dark skinned people also, unlike the whites who used to treat them badly. Now, for the first time in the country's history, there were many international readers who came together for the inauguration ceremony. Okay, now the first time in the history of South Africa, there were so many international people also from all over the globe. People came and attended that inauguration ceremony because Nelson Mandela, he was the first black person who became the head of state, isn't it? Now, what was the location of the ceremony? This inauguration took place in the Union Buildings of Pretoria City. So, in the Union Buildings of Pretoria City, the inauguration was conducted. Alright. Now, the swearing in ceremony. Now, what was happening in the ceremony? The author was accompanied by his daughter, Zinani. Okay, on his big day. Now, the person who is writing this story, isn't it? So, the author was accompanied by his daughter Zenani. Alright, so the author, as in Nelson Mandela himself, right? He wrote the story, it's an autobiography. So, his daughter Zenani was also present. Now, firstly, the two vice presidents they took an oath. Oath has in swearing that we swear to improve the condition of the country and that way. Alright. Now, then when it was Nelson Mandela's turn, he committed to respect, protect, and abide the constitution and to devote his entire self into the welfare of the country. So what happened is this entire thing was the oath. This was the oath of Nelson Mandela. Okay, so Nelson Mandela, when his turn came, what did he oath? He didn't say big words. He just said that I will always respect, protect, and abide. Abide means follow the constitution of our country, and always I will be devoted. I'll be in the I'll be just mixed with the entire self. I'll mix my whole self in this country only to do the betterment. So that is what Nelson Mandela said, that I will respect, protect, and follow, abide the constitution, and devote my entire self into the welfare of the country. So he said that I just want the country should be more equality should be there in it, and this black, white, this racism shouldn't be there. So this was the swearing which was done on the inauguration day. Now, Nelson Mandela's address. Now, Nelson Mandela also mentions some parts of his speech where he said that everyone by the presence was giving rise to hope of a new beginning. Right. So basically, he mentions in some parts of his speech which he gave, right, because he became the head. So he also mentioned that the presence, okay, the presence of so many people, international people were present, right? So it gave a hope to him that yes, I am doing it and it is very helpful for everyone. So he got that kind of hope from inside. Now, previous rulers were discriminatory and lasted for long, but the ones who are given the opportunity to rule now, which were from ANC, would stand up against discrimination. Now, what happened was that before Nelson Mandela, the people who were ruling South Africa, what happened was they were discriminatory. They considered whites to be more superior, and when talking about black, the dark skinned one, they were inferior to them, right? And they lasted for long, right? But the ones who were given the opportunity to rule now, they were the ANC. What was the meaning of ANC? ANC was nothing but the full form of the ANC, the full form was African National Congress. So basically, what happened was the people who now came into the picture for ruling the country, they stood up as ANC, which was African National Congress, and they stood up against the discrimination based on the skin. Right. Now he, as in Nelson Mandela, was very glad to host a ceremony in the presence of global leaders, as well as it was an achievement in itself. So basically, it's a very big thing that first time he is who is a dark colored skin who is becoming a head. Apart from that, there were global leaders from many countries. The people came to support him, so it was a very big achievement for Nelson Mandela himself, right? Now, the continued part. There was a time when South Africa, for practicing apartheid, lost all its international political relationships. Now, what happened was the previous rulers, right, where they practiced this apartheid, the differentiation of black and white. So the South Africa wasn't considered a good country, right? As in, the international relations weren't good, right? The other countries would say they are so yeah, they are so discriminative, right? They're discriminating based on what? Based on the skin color. We do not want to keep relations with them. So due to that reason, international relations were also a problem during the previous time when such apartheid was followed. But now, when there is no segregation on the basis of race and gender, other nations are happy to have healthy democratic relationships. Now, what happened is when there is no segregation as in division, correct? Previously, there was the division between black and white and such way, right? So, segregation as in division, now it wasn't there. When Nelson Mandela became the ruler, he said that there will be no segregation, no things. It's not that I am dark skinned, only dark skinned are the superiors. No, even whites and darks, they both will be treated equally on the same plane. So right now, every global leaders came and they said, okay, now if there is no segregation, no apartheid is followed, so we are okay to have a good democratic relationships with South Africa. So they were readily accepted. Now, Nelson Mandela, he thanks everyone, especially all the international leaders who joined them in the celebrating their achievement, which is a step towards an equal society where every human will be treated fairly. So, once the inauguration and all was done, Nelson Mandela, he specially gave a heartfelt, thank you to everyone. Why? Because it's a very big thing that people came here in Nelson Mandela's achievement, where he was able to make a equal society. They just started the first step they took for an equal society where all the humans are treated fairly. No one is superior, inferior based on their skin color, right? So it was a very big thank you by him. Now, what there was one regret of Mandela. What was it? Now, this equal and free country was a result of sacrifices of countless other men and women who have fought all their lives for this day. Right? What happened? This equal and free country, now this country where everything was free now, correct, everyone were equal, but it was a sacrifice of many other men and women who had fought it for this day where they are treated equally. Now speaker Nelson Mandela, he wishes he could thank them all, but unfortunately they did not live to see the result of their courage. So basically, he was regretting that I should have done this before only. Why? Because there were many more. It was not Mandela who was the first one that, okay, I am going to stand him. No, there were many other people who thought that no, we also want this equality, right? But unfortunately, they couldn't do that. Right, they couldn't do that. So he was wishing, Nelson Mandela wishes that maybe he could thank those people that you also had fought, but today you see that because of your courage and importance, this step could be taken. If they would be seeing it, it would be such an amazing moment, but unfortunately they couldn't live that long, right? Now Nelson Mandela, he gathered his courage and power from all those people and thus wishes to make them proud. So although they are no more in this world, but he still said if you're no more, they would be seeing from at least from up, right? So he wishes that you all see, I'll definitely make you proud. Whatever problems you might have faced, now it won't be. Your maybe the next generations which are having currently who are alive, they would not face any such problems. So that is what he gathered his courage and power. Right. That was the only regret of Mandela. Now, there were some freedom fighters, remember? So, this operation policy that scared many people, and it would take a long time for them to move on. The author mentions that this hard time had its negative impacts also, but it created a lot of strong and courageous men who stood up and raised their voice. Now, basically, this oppression policy, okay, it had scared many people also, and it would take a very long time for those people who were against it to adopt to it, isn't it? It's not necessary that whatever you are feeling, even I will feel, isn't it? I will say that I do not want, discrimination. You may say, some other will say, "Oh, I want." No, that person who's telling, "I want discrimination," there should be discrimination. So if I impose my rule, obviously it would take time to digest that thing. So that is when there was some time taken. There were some negative impacts also, but there were many strong, courageous men, women, and the citizens, right, who stood up against this discrimination and still raised their voice. So, thus, it required that level of unjust treatment to produce such great heroes. Correct? No one can. It's not easy to just go and say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, stop the, apartheid and everything." It's not that easy. Correct? People who had courage in them, they could only go and do it, isn't it? So South Africa, he says, it is rich in minerals and gems, but its greatest strength lies in the people. So Nelson Mandela says that our South Africa, it is rich in minerals also, it has many minerals, it has gems also, but that is not the identity of our country. Our identity is that our greatest strength, the entire strength of our country relies in the hands of our people. So that is what he believes. Now, what are our general man citizens' duties as per Mandela? So, according to Nelson Mandela, every human being has a responsibility towards the family as well as the society. Now, whenever we always do such things which are appropriate to our family as well as society, isn't it? We know that we have to even look around our society because we do not want to get exiled and be alienated, isn't it? We want that our society, we all should be mended together. So that is why Nelson Mandela also said that each and everyone, we have a responsibility, a proper citizenship, right? We should do proper work, social work for our family as well as the society. But generally, under the normal circumstances, a person can maintain the balance between the two. But in countries like South Africa, it was never so easy. Now, basically, in normal countries, you know what happened? We balance the two things, families and societies. We balance them properly, and we can manage to do it. But during that time, South Africa, it was not easy. When a person of color raised his voice for his society, he would be arrested and taken away from his family, thus prevented from fulfilling both his responsibilities. So, if a black man or a dark skinned man raises voice, no, this is wrong, why are I'm not getting the proper rights, so what would happen? Nothing. The whites would go, arrest him, and put him in the jail, taken away from the family. He cannot do for the society, he cannot do for his family also. It entire thing gone in vain. If anyone used to do and much of suppression or revolt, the whites even used to kill them, isn't it? So that's the reason. Whenever maintaining family society sounds easy, but in some countries like South Africa, it wasn't easy to do it. If anyone raised their voice, they were killed or they were arrested also. Now, in the beginning, Mandela did not put his people for over his family, but it was only later when he realized that in order to be there for his people, he had to compromise his duties towards his own family. So as he became the head, even it was difficult for Nelson Mandela himself also to handle it. But he said, "I have to keep my people, my country, a little bit over my family also." Now, the last part, freedom was defined. Nelson Mandela did not have any plan of standing against the apartheid system early in his life, right? So, like a childhood, he wouldn't go like a child, no, no, leave it, leave it. No, he won't go that way, right? So, he lived this childhood like a normal child in South Africa, being ill treated. No, actually, not ill treated, as in being not given the proper rights and everything. He only had to follow the rules which were set up by his fathers or the customs of his tribe. So the whatever his father, the head of the family or the tribe, the customs of the tribe, you would say, he used to follow that as a kid. But when he grew up and began to face the reality of how people of dark color were treated, he decided to stand up against it. So he saw that okay, as a child he didn't understand, but as he grew up, as he got more and more sense, he thought that no, this is absolutely wrong with how dark people are treated. So he thought that no, I want to go against it. So he had this urge for freedom from inside. Earlier, just for himself, like staying out at night and etc., and later for having a basic life, not just for himself but for everyone. So basically, he said that I want to free my country. I mean, free as in I want to free my country from such kind of you know ill discrimination. So that is why he said that I will change it and I'll give freedom, and that he did also. So this is a very beautiful autobiography by himself, Nelson Mandela, and we understand how does it happen, right? It is very difficult. It is similar case which even occurs in India, right? Currently also, and previously it was too much like in India how untouchables are treated in villages, right? Similarly in South Africa the blacks were considered inferior. So that is what the whole story revolves around. So yes, we have completed with a summary. Let's move towards some important extract based on MCQs and question answers. So we have an extract. We who were outlaws not so long ago, we have today been given the rare privilege to be the host to the nations of the world on our own soil. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. Now, this is an extract given from a textbook, isn't it? So, this is what Nelson Mandela says for the this heartfelt thank you to everyone in the inauguration. Okay, so here question is, who are we in the extract? He said in the start, we who were the outlaws. Okay. Now we, he doesn't say I am telling it. No, he said we. Now this we refers to whom? White Africans, Europeans, Asians, or black Africans. So yes, the correct answer is black Africans. Why? Because the black people Nelson Mandela had fought for them itself, isn't it? Now again the same paragraph. Question, pick the option that lists the statement which are not true. Not true. Okay. Wrong thing. Nelson Mandela thanked all the present dignitaries, right? All the present dignitaries. Okay. Is it true or false? So, next, the country talked about in this extract is Nigeria. Then, the inauguration of anti-apartheid government was termed as a common victory for human dignity by Mandela. So, first one, Nelson Mandela thanked all present dignitaries. Yes, it is true. He thanked everyone for coming and attending it. Yes, the country talked about in this as Nigeria. Nigeria, where did Nigeria come from? It is South Africa. So this is wrong. Last one, inauguration of anti-apartheid was termed as a common victory for human dignity. Yes, it is correct. He said it is common for everyone, not only South Africa. So our correct answer is only second one is wrong. Okay, that is country talked about. This is Nigeria. Now let's see some important questions. Describe the value of freedom for the human beings and how it is important for the growth of civilization and humanism, as described in the lesson Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. So we have to explain here how this freedom for human beings is very important, so that we people grow more civilized and humanitarian. How? So let me show you the answer. Everybody, whether it be human beings or other creature, they want to live free as freedom and is natural to all living beings. Now if let's go apart from human beings, if you see a animal also, I don't know if many of you have observed this or not, but whenever you see a animal in the let's take a deer, take a deer. You would see a deer in a forest, it would be so free running here and there. But if you take that same deer, put it in a zoo or in a cage, that won't be so happy, isn't it? Because every living beings, they want to be free. Everyone loves to be free, right? So the value of freedom is better known to that human being whose freedom has been forcefully curtailed, right? So basically the value of freedom, it no one else knows is better other than the person whose freedom has been taken away. If you take a free person and ask a slave, who would know better about freedom? Obviously the slave, because that slave's freedom has been taken away, snatched from him, isn't it? A person who is chained and not allowed to perform his duties freely values of freedom more than anyone else. So a person who is chained, who is behind with strings, that no, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, he knows better than anyone about freedom. So, for instance, the value of freedom is known better to Mandela, who remained behind the bars most of his life. Mandela, as he was a revolutionary, he revolted against them. He was put against the bars, but he did not give up. He still fought for it. As I said, think about a bird or animal which is caged. They have a habit of living with full freedom, but in case they are not free and their conditions are very pitiable. So basically, as I said, you take a bird. Okay, see in the sky how they're enjoying. You put that bird in a cage. It will be very saddening for them, right? They will live very sadly. They won't be happy. Why? Because even animals want their freedom. So we humans should obviously get it, isn't it? Similarly, life becomes hell if we are deprived of freedom. Our life wouldn't be good if don't have our freedom, right? If you see the old kings and everything, they had slaves, right? Would you think that slaves were happy about, oh wow, we are slaves, so good? No, right? Because life is totally, absolutely not of use if we do not have our own freedom. That is what was in the South Africa also, right? There is no growth of civilization, as it grows only when one has a freedom. And humanism also grows in the atmosphere of freedom only. You want to get civilized, you have to be equal to everyone. For humanitarian growth, there should be an atmosphere of freedom only, right? Previously, people used to make slaves, used to treat untouchables and everything, right? That was very old. They were uncivilized. Now also, if people are following that, what is the civilization? Even you are uncivilized then, isn't it? So that is what was the thing. Now, next question. Does Mandela think the oppressor is free? Why or why not? So let's see. According to Mandela, the oppressor is much as a prisoner as the oppressed. As soon as the former robs the oppressed for their freedom, he himself gets robbed of his humanity. Thus, he thinks that oppressor too is not free. So basically, whenever someone is suffering, there is one oppressor and another one is oppressed. Oppressor means who is, oppressing the other person, right? Known as the oppressed. So basically, okay, the whites were oppressing the what? Oppressing the dark colored people, right? But colored people, their freedom was gone. But the white people who were oppressing them, even their humanity was gone. So basically, Mandela thinks that no, even oppressor is not free, because if he is doing anything such wrong, taking your freedom away, so he is himself also getting his humanity away. So that is why oppressor is also not free. Okay. Now, next one. What did freedom mean to Mandela in childhood? When he was a small child, what did he understand about freedom? So, during childhood, the meaning of freedom for Mandela was quite limited. He considered it to be free to run in the fields, swim in the clear stream, free to roast mealies, and ride the board backs of slow moving bulls. Now, basically, he was a small child. No, if you ask a small child, who is in grade 1 or 2, KG1, if you ask him what is the meaning of freedom, he won't give a long history speech, right? Obviously, he will say, enjoying everything, whatever I want to do, I'll do that. That is basically. So, as per Mandela, there are four things. He believed the meaning of freedom was very limited for him. And what are the things? Running in the fields, swimming in the stream, then roasting mealies, it's a kind of food, and ride moving the bulls. That was the meaning of freedom to Mandela in a childhood, right? But when he grew up, was it the same meaning? No. He was the one who gave proper rights. So yes, students, we have completed with the questions, and now I'll quickly show you a mind map to summarize the whole chapter. So what happens is, we have the mind map of Nelson Mandela. 10th May was a day of freedom for South Africa. It was the inauguration day where many people of internationally came. Okay, then Nelson Mandela gave a speech on victory for justice, peace, and human dignity, and pledged to liberate his power from poverty, suffering, and discrimination. Whatever discrimination people are facing, they're suffering, the black people, he will always take them up. Right, they won't let him suffer it. Correct. Then Nelson Mandela stated that a man should try to make a balance between his duty. Everyone should balance the society as well as the family also. As per Mandela, freedom has many aspects. For a kid, it is to run freely without any rules and regulations. But for an adult, it is to fulfill the needs of his own family. That is freedom. But the real freedom means the equal rights for everyone. Mandela remembered and thanked the people who sacrificed for their lives. He gave a heartfelt thank you to everyone who sacrificed their life, who died longing for this freedom. And in the inauguration ceremony, or the swearing in ceremony, was being held in the Union Building of Pretoria, and it was the first non-racial government took charge. So Nelson Mandela was the first black person who became the head of state in South Africa. So yes, this was about the whole chapter. So thank you so much, students, for watching today's session. I hope this chapter was quite interesting and it gave us so much about new knowledge, isn't it? So make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, comment in the comment section if you have any doubts, right? And subscribe to the channel if you didn't do it till now. I'll be seeing you very soon with more such exciting videos. Till then, take care and goodbye.